Good Morning Liberty.
Look, Magoo comes back. We have 15 people in the audience.
What is up? All of our liberty-loving friends, this is another fantastic episode of Good Morning Liberty. My name is Nate Thurston. Across from me is Mr. Charles Chuck Thompson. How's it going today, Chuck? You got that Merca hat on. Yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot about that, man.
I'm back to being proud to be an American.
He's proud to be an American. At least he knows he's free. That's the good thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's Good Morning
freedom
Liberty.
isn't free, though. We know that.
No, that also costs money. We know that as well. We missed yesterday. Sorry. That's why we say every single day of the week when we want to. And
that's
so
an important distinction.
Yeah, it's a very important thing. You can't say we didn't warn you yesterday, even though we might have wanted to. We just couldn't yesterday. Sorry about that. I did, however, record an episode for the Decentralized Revolution podcast by the Mises Caucus, which I'm sort of co-hosting now. And
Nate's being poached.
Yeah, poached. If you enjoy this show, but you wish it was someone other than Chuck, then you can listen.
You're gonna love.
Then I've got good news for you. And so go follow the Mises Caucus and the Decentralized Revolution podcast on your favorite podcast
Costco's
app. Pumped. So he's super pumped. This is gonna be Costco's favorite podcast.
One of the Fed haters. Are you doing that once a week? A couple times
once
a week?
I think it's every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Central. We're going to be going live on X and YouTube.
Nice.
So talking about the news and stuff. Speaking of news and stuff, there's a little bit of news. We're going to try and do a little bit different today because we've just been talking about war for I don't know how many. I don't know, like 2 weeks now. It feels like we've just been talking about war, and so we're going to switch it up a little bit, and we're going to start off by talking about war, but then we're going to move on to a couple other things that's not war. So if you're excited to hear about something that's not war, we're also going to talk about some of the changes that have been made to the big, beautiful bill, somewhat smaller, uglier bill now, because it turns out they're getting rid of like half of the cuts that were in the bill. And so that's fun.
So now instead of 1.6 trillion in savings, we're only going to do 800 billion in savings.
I mean, that's my initial
over 10 years.
That's off the top of my head. Estimate right now. The actual numbers, they'll have to go take it back to the CBO and try and figure out all that stuff once they figure out exactly what they have to take out of the bill, thanks to the Senate parliamentarian. We got Zoran Mamdani in New York winning that Democratic primary. We're not just going to go off about that today, maybe a little bit, but we do have Dumb Bleep of the Week tomorrow morning, which provides ample opportunity to talk about socialists and their ideas. And also what I think is a really dumb reaction by a bunch of the right-wing influencers to just spend so much time talking about Muslims and Islam and immigration, even with him being like a legal immigrant and stuff like that. I'm like, dude, no, socialism. That's the problem. You know,
what's interesting,
stupid
though,
economic policies, Marxism.
He does have some libertarian ideas.
Oh, does he?
When it comes to chicken la 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 la.
Yes.
His
the permit thing.
The permit thing.
The flaws, that's what it was.
La la la. Yeah.
I did see that. Although he didn't
like,
realize
maybe we shouldn't have permits.
Well, he didn't realize that what I think he really doesn't like is that people come in and buy up New York's permits and then they essentially rent them out to people like the taxi medallions, you know? And so he talks about what these people are having to pay and all that. And I'm not sure if he wants to get rid of the permits or just rule that only those people can get the permits. And I'm just like, why don't we just not do the permits? Like, he straight up went around on the street and asked people, like, well, if you didn't have to pay that permit, how much less could you charge for the food? And I'm like, yes, exactly.
We can make chicken $8 again.
Okay.
Which is interesting. What about Daddy's Home? We got that?
No, Daddy's.
Okay.
No Daddy's Home. Oh, the Trump thing.
Yes.
Maybe just
we'll just start on a light note.
Maybe we should play that though,
just in case no one's seen it.
You said that there's a reason.
There is a reason,
and so I'll take your word for it that there is a reason. Let me try and find. There it is. There's the post right there.
This is from the White House.
So I'll put this up on the screen. The White House X page posted, "Daddy's home. Hey, 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 Daddy. President Donald J. Trump attended the NATO summit in the Hague, Netherlands. And
you went there, didn't you?
No, I didn't go there. No.
You didn't go to the Netherlands?
No.
Oh,
No.
Finland.
Norway.
Norway.
Yeah.
Oh, I get them confused.
It's all the same.
It's
What's
all-
the
yeah.
difference, honestly?
Denmark.
Yeah, basically went to Denmark. Yeah, that's where I went. Okay, so here's the video of Trump coming home from NATO.
I just wanna get your attention. I really wanna be all up in your head. Yeah. Is it you say daddy's home for me? I know you've been waiting for this loving all day. You know your daddy's home. So you ain't got to give my love away. So when you say hey, so when you say hey, I ain't gotta do a lot of flexing. Shawty, you already know what it is. So when you say hey.
All right.
Such a good video. Oh. Since Magoo's back in the Fed Haters Club, he's like, you don't have to call me daddy. he's right here. No, now this has a meaning behind it.
Okay,
so for those of
Charlie
you,
has to provide the excuses for this video
No.
because I didn't know there was a context.
it's actually really funny. Okay, so for those of
Okay.
you that watched any of the NATO summit,
Charlie,
there-
who doesn't regret his vote,
There-
still has an excuse for
there-
this.
That's right.
Yeah.
There was a leader, a foreign leader, I can't remember from which country, who called Trump daddy while
Okay.
they were sitting down talking. Then, when Trump was taking questions, a reporter asked him about this foreign leader calling him daddy and if he sees all the other NATO countries as his children. Okay? So then Barron Trump, probably who's running the White House Twitter account, decided to put together this video, which I find to be absolutely hilarious. It's such a great troll. Lots of people are upset about it, which I think just makes it even better troll. And it just shows like,
Well,
how-
I'm not upset about it.
no, I'm saying some people are in the comments. And
I just think it's crazy cringe.
now they're gonna have the no daddy protests instead of
No
no king,
daddy.
no kings, no daddies.
All right, so there's our lighthearted thing to start off with. So you wouldn't recommend that for Dumb Bleep of the Week then?
No, I wouldn't.
Because it was going to be, it's in there bookmarked under dumb right now.
You can make it dumb. I don't find it to be dumb. I find it to be hilarious. Like
you
if
don't think
I
it's
were
super
president,
cringe-worthy stuff to
no,
put out there.
if I were president, I'm just trying to think. If I were president and someone, I think it was the leader of NATO, the leader of NATO, called me daddy, and then I would absolutely text Parker, my son, and be like, dude, leader just called me daddy, make a funny video, and put it out there.
Yeah. Well, I might have to disagree with you on that one. We'll see. Well, I'll go into some deep thought tonight and see if it needs to be in.
You
Dumb
could put
Bleep
it
of
in
the
dumb
week.
bleep.
So
It's
we'll
fine.
see. We'll see. We'll see how many votes it gets. It's going to be either that or us bombing Iran. I don't know which one's going to win.
Which one's dumber?
So, speaking of the war, as you guys have seen, I'm sure over the last couple of days, there was a leaked intelligence report that came out from the intelligence community. Some low-level loser, as the White House calls this person, that said that we only did enough damage to their nuclear facilities, Iran's nuclear facilities, to set it back by a few months. And Trump and the administration have been very upset about this. They've taken in my opinion, a really annoying road where, like, if you say this, and we'll talk about this and whether or not it's potentially true. If you say this, though, they've taken the route of you hate the troops. They're like, you're disrespecting our pilots. Like, as if it didn't work, it means the pilots, specifically the female pilot in the B-2 bomber, didn't drop the bomb correctly onto the facility. And so you're disrespecting our pilots by saying that this didn't work. Because if they would have done a perfect job, then clearly it would have worked. And it's not what no one's being like, yeah, those pilots screwed up.
Right.
So they're saying there were plenty of questions beforehand as to whether or not a bunker buster could destroy the facilities. they were talking about how it might take the tiniest of nukes, okay,
to actually destroy it.
Little bitty nuke that you send out there.
Because the concern was that the bunker busters, even though they're 30,000-pound bombs, may not be able to reach the depths of the actual facilities.
Yeah. What if it didn't go down quite far enough? What if it went down too far? It just popped straight through the janitor's closet, went down another 100 feet past that, and then it blew up, Now, I would assume that there's a lot of damage down there. You collapse the ground under it or above it, there's probably a lot of damage. I'm not saying it's not damaged, but the really important thing to know...
People probably definitely died that were in there.
If they were in there, yeah, I'm sure it wasn't good for them at all. The elevators definitely stopped working there for a bit, I would say. Power probably went out, all that stuff. The most important thing to keep in mind is that no one knows unless someone's gone in there and looked at stuff. Like, get your flashlight and go down there, go to the centrifuge room, and you bust open that door, and you check and see if the centrifuges are working or not. And then you'll know whether or not we severely set back their nuclear program. But essentially, we're all looking at the same picture of the place. Now, I'm sure Israel's got some assets on the ground. I'm sure they definitely have some assets.
Now, Trump
on the ground.
did say at NATO yesterday, he was asked about it. He said that they have reports from people who have been there.
Okay.
And that they blew it to kingdom come.
Yeah.
That was his technical word for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They've been blown to kingdom come.
Magoo says that's why you drop it directly in the ventilation shaft, like Top Gun Mission Impossible 007 Part 2. And that's right. I watched that movie a couple days ago to study exactly, because we didn't have video of this bombing run, but that's a pretty accurate representation, I'm sure, of what happened. And you get to see the training beforehand and all that. And they just popped it right down that ventilation shaft. You didn't even have to use a bunker buster. They use a F-18 to carry it out there. And you're not going to make fun of Tom Cruise as a pilot.
No.
I'm sure he goes down at the end of the movie, but he's trying to save his friend. So, what were we talking about?
Bunker busters.
Bunker busters, yeah.
Yes.
So that's the controversy right now. Oh crap, that's Daddy's home. Here's a little bit of Trump talking about this, I believe, yesterday, and he's really going hard after the media right now. And I see it both ways. Like, I try to figure out why this was leaked. Who in the administration decided to leak this? This is like a preliminary report. The person who wrote it probably has like no clue, just like Trump probably has somewhat clue, but not total clue. And
I mean, it does take a few days for them to kind of gather the intelligence and put it together.
And the media, of course, there's two motivations I can see from the media. The number one easiest one is that they want to make Trump look bad, because that's kind of a thing that the media does, is that they want to make him look bad. And even though he took this extremely risky gamble of going and bombing Iran, that it didn't even work. They just, they risked all of those lives and risked escalating the war and World War III for nothing. This incompetent dictator can't even blow up these sites in Iran. And so that's a really good motivation. Maybe there's another middle motivation, which is that it's just news and someone leaked it to them, and so they're going to post it, just out of good journalism.
Good, yeah.
Okay.
They care about that.
All right, that's not it. So then there's the third one, which is that they want to see the war keep going, and they want to convince everyone that the job isn't done. And so they want to make sure that we're like, oh, yeah, this is still a threat, and here in a few months, we're going to be weeks away from them having a nuke again. And so we're going to have to keep this whole thing going, and we're just going to go ahead and need I would say probably a few boots on the ground in there. A few, like, I guess one guy doesn't have a leg, but so there's like, maybe 4 boots on the ground that you would send in there and make sure this place is taken care of. So that's another motivation, is that they just want to have the war going. It's good for news to have war. I mean, I've watched a lot more news in the last couple weeks than I have, I don't know, since like 9/11 or something. I don't
just
know.
To see that Fox News alert, which happens every 5 minutes.
Bing, it just comes on. It's an alert every single time. We interrupt this Jardian's programming to bring you a Fox News alert. Here's Trump talking about this.
This was an unbelievable hit by genius pilots and genius people in the military, and they're not being given credit for it because we have scum that's in this group, and not all of you are. You have some great reporters, but you have scum. CNN is scum. MSDNC is scum. The New York Times is scum. They're bad people. They're sick. And what they've done is they're trying to make this unbelievable victory into something less. Now, even they admit that it was hit very hard, okay? But it wasn't hit hard. It was hit brutally, and it knocked it out. The original word that I use, I guess it got us in trouble because it's a strong word. It was obliteration.
Okay. Obliteration. And if you don't use something as strong as obliteration, you're essentially not MAGA at this point.
I guess it got us in trouble.
Yeah.
Even.
Just saying that it got obliterated. Now, he was saying that, like, day of, night of, whenever it was that they announced that they did it, that it was obliterated. And I'm sorry, it's impossible to know that at that time. It's going to take it, I would say, at least a day to get people in there to see how it worked. But whatever.
I mean, just looking at the pictures, it doesn't look obliterated.
No.
It looks damaged.
You'd like to see, I'm no expert here on obliteration, like some people are. It looks pretty bad, I reckon, but it's tough to tell. It's a bunker, but the thing happens underground. The thing that happens underground. So it is it's tough to tell for sure.
Well, and that damage you're seeing there is probably from the cruise missiles that actually hit topside.
The topside missiles, yeah. I will say, however, centrifuges at Fordo no longer operational, says UN nuclear watchdog head. This is the guy this is Rafael Grossi, who's head of the IAEA, who we talked about a little bit last week. And this story here from the New York Times says centrifuges at the Fordo uranium enrichment plant in Iran are no longer operational after the U.S. attacked the facility with bunker buster bombs. Rafael Grossi, the director general of IAEA, that's the International Atomic Energy Agency, said on French radio on Thursday. Evaluating the damage from the strikes using satellite imagery alone is difficult, Mr. Grossi told Radio France Internationale in an interview. But given the power of the bombs and the technical characteristics of the plant, quote, we already know that these centrifuges are no longer operational. He added that centrifuges are machines that require a high degree of precision and are vulnerable to intense vibrations. There was no escaping significant physical damage, Grossi said, so we can come to a fairly accurate technical conclusion. So that's what we have from him so far. So maybe we did get their nuclear problem knocked out for quite some time. There's, of course, all sorts of problems that arise from this. Are they going to try and sprint to a bomb now? Do they hate America and Israel less now? Are they less of a problem than they were before? I think those are all pretty valid questions. Clearly, a lot of damage was done to the country. Somewhere between 600 and 1,000 people were killed in various bombings from the numbers that I have heard. And we might not know for a long time what the repercussions of this are. Like right now, everything looks fine. This all looks fine. But the repercussions from this, the side effects, the potential blowback from things like this would take years to culminate afterwards. So we don't really know. It could be really good. It could be really bad.
Did see Iranian parliament. I don't know when this was. It could have been any time, but apparently they were chanting death to Israel and death to America.
Khomeini, I think, did his first video. I saw that released this morning, and it was back to the usual, like, death to America and Israel, and we beat them, and like all kinds of stuff. Like nothing's changed as far as he's concerned.
Sorry, I was getting a hole in one on every hole
on
the golf course.
He did see a shadow though, so he's got to go back to his bunker for the next couple weeks, and so he went back down there. But don't worry, there's always problems to worry about. From the Economic Times, we've got an issue now. Trump is now warning Pakistan over its missiles that it is developing that would have the capability to strike the U.S. So that's fun. This came out yesterday. Pakistan is developing a nuclear ICBM that can reach the U.S., says Foreign Affairs. The development that's raising serious concerns. They're already working on an ICBM. How many times have we said it could reach the U.S.? We said it probably in the headline, the subheadline, and then now in the first paragraph too. According to detailed Foreign Affairs reporting citing the U.S. intelligence sources. Why are we worried about this? The report states that U.S. intelligence agencies believe Pakistan is not only expanding its nuclear arsenal, but is developing ICBMs If Pakistan acquires an ICBM, Washington will have no choice but to treat the country as a nuclear adversary. I haven't worried about Pakistan in quite some time. I know I'm supposed to be pretty worried about Pakistan, but there's always a new country to worry about. That's the point here, you know? And this is not like we're about to declare war on them. I'm not sure we're going to be bombing their nuclear facilities anytime soon. They do already have some nukes. I think they have like 10 nukes or something. But they're always going to find someone to make you worry about, you know?
And they're saying, like, look, this is to deter India because obviously we just had a fight with India. So, but U.S. intelligence is not buying that.
I don't know that there's any risk that Pakistan, with their 10 nukes, are going to launch a nuclear war against the United States.
Why?
Like, is that seriously something that we should be worried about right now? No, the answer is no. Just so everyone knows, the answer to that question is no. Let's get on. We've talked so much war lately, and you've got plenty of podcasts to go to for war if you want to do that. The big, beautiful bill has been slimmed down.
Not in a good way.
In the Senate. No, not the spending side, the saving side.
The saving
side, which could have happened. You know, they could have had, assuming no changes were made, like 5 years from now, they were going to start saving money.
Yeah.
You know, takes money to make money.
Government's good at that, you know?
Yeah, that's what they got to do. So the Senate has this thing called the parliamentarian, and this is that annoying person. You know how we joke about like Libertarian Party rules and bylaws and all this stuff, and the convention's like a hilarious joke because people are coming up with their points of order and point of privilege or whatever it is that they say at these stupid meetings. They got this person who's like, point of order. It says here specifically in this rule that you can't do this when it comes to a reconciliation bill. It's got to be these specific things that you can do in a reconciliation bill. And so they got a person that makes sure that things don't get sent into the bill that could potentially save the taxpayers any money. And so they make sure
violates these parliamentary rules.
And that's because in this special process, typically it takes 60 votes, you know, get over your filibuster threshold to actually bring that bill out there for a vote. And to get around that filibuster, they can do this reconciliation process, which is just a straight up majority, pass or fail bill. And but there's some extra rules for that. Now, to be clear, just so everyone knows, this has helped out somewhat in the past because Democrats tried to put an increase to the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour in the bill in 2021, I think. And the Senate parliamentarian, the same person, by the way, came in and said, nope, that's against the rules. This is a reconciliation bill. You can't be changing the federal minimum wage in this bill that requires the 60-vote threshold to do this. And so they pulled that out of the bill. And Democrats also were super upset about that. They can overrule the parliamentarian and still do it. But this is one of those things where both sides are afraid of what the other side might do if they set that precedent, you know. It'd be like they could vote to get rid of the filibuster if they wanted to, but then they're afraid of what the other side might do.
Which has happened.
Also with it has happened. And so now both sides are afraid of what the other might do if they do that. So some of the things, by the way, that are getting cut out, I saw this pretty good little breakdown here with these screenshots. So according to the parliamentarian, there's this thing called the Byrd Rule that they're basically enforcing here. So the provisions that are subject to the 60-vote Byrd Rule point of order, prohibiting federal financial participation under Medicaid and CHIP for individuals without verified citizenship, nationality, or satisfactory immigration status. This section prohibits federal financial participation in Medicaid for adults and kids whose citizenship, nationality, or immigration status cannot be immediately verified. The other one, immigrant Medicaid eligibility. This section denies federal funding to states for Medicaid coverage for certain immigrants who are not citizens. So that's another one there. Let's see. We've got the expansion of FMAP for certain states, providing payments for health care furnished to certain individuals. Does it say undocumented individuals? Okay, so they were trying to get rid of that again. Spread pricing in Medicaid. Anything about undocumented in this one? No, nothing there. Prohibiting federal Medicaid and children's health insurance program funding for gender-affirming care. So you still got to provide Medicaid funding for gender-affirming care for kids.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
It's reasonable.
It's important stuff. The provider taxes. You know that system where they game the system by taxing providers and then giving them the money back afterwards in higher Medicaid payments, so they can claim more Medicaid payments to the federal government and get more money from the federal government to help pay the state share of the Medicaid payments.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it sounds illegal to me, but it's allowed. They just say you got to do it equally across the board to all the providers. So, okay.
It also says that ending states' ability to tax healthcare providers would severely limit states' ability to provide healthcare to millions of Americans.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It kind of sounds like fraud, you know what?
Yeah.
That thing.
I mean, they seriously, they tax the healthcare providers, but then the money they tax out of the providers, they pay back to the providers and increase Medicaid payments to them. And then they go to the federal government and they say, here's how much we paid for Medicaid. And you guys owe us anywhere between 50 and 80% of that, whatever the deal is they have with the state. And so they're like, okay, we owe you 70% of whatever you paid. Well, guess what they just did? They taxed the provider so they could pay higher payments back to that provider for Medicaid, so they could then go to the federal government and say, look, how much money I spent on Medicaid. And then the federal government pays 70% of whatever that is back to them. And instead of the share for the state being 30% of like real Medicaid payments, their share ends up being like 20% or 18% or nothing in some states.
And they make a profit
if they do it right. And essentially they're not. Yeah, I even hate making these arguments because I'm like, all right, well, let's just get rid of Medicaid. I think that'll solve the problem. But limiting Medicare coverage of certain individuals. Anytime they say certain individuals, it kind of seems like they're talking about illegal immigrants on here. And
it says immigrants who are not citizens. That's what it says.
Well, there could be immigrants who are like pending legal status or visas or whatever, not fully citizens. So it doesn't specifically mean.
But to your point,
undocumented, I guess.
If we just got rid of Medicaid, no problem.
And Medicare, it's fine.
Medicare,
you might want to phase out Medicare over time, I would say.
Yeah.
Like let's get rid of it in like 15 years or something. Actually, I think that's going to happen anyway. But
it's going to do it itself.
Whether we want to or not.
Yeah.
That was a story that we didn't talk about. I've got a link saved somewhere that's like, yeah, we're going to run out of money in 2033, So
I think that asteroid's supposed to hit in 2032. So I just watched Armageddon last night.
Oh. So it's fine then.
So I think we'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
We're gonna destroy the Earth. The Earth is going to be destroyed prior to Medicare running out of money. So we'll be fine.
Even though I, when it comes to immigration, I mostly don't care that much. If you want to deport everyone, I'm sorry if it makes me a bad person. I'm like, I don't care. There are definitely instances where it's sad, and it's probably not great economics to deport someone who's super productive and paying their taxes and doing all that. Like, doesn't make a ton of sense, I would say, to do that. You pay a bunch of money to deport someone who is working a productive job, but whatever. I sort of don't care about the whole thing, and that might make me not a real libertarian or a real libertarian. It depends on which libertarian you ask about that. I start to care about it when I'm like, yeah, if you can get across the border, we're just going to pay for all your shit after that, like that's where the problem is. That's where most people's problems are when it comes to immigration. Like if it weren't for the welfare state, so many people wouldn't care.
They wouldn't, at all.
And it's not like every immigrant can get tons of federal payments as an illegal immigrant, but they can get a lot of state payments. And they can use a lot of local systems. And guess where state and local governments get a lot of their money? The federal government ends up paying for a lot of that stuff. So
which comes from you.
Yeah, which is still from all of us. And so I start to really care when I'm like, what's the limiting factor here? That you can set up something like Medicaid that's going to cover people who aren't citizens, and we try to take that out and not provide states with that money in their Medicaid programs. And they're like, oh yeah, you can't do that. You can't. What are we doing here?
Right.
How are you ever going to fix any of this stuff? If you can't even take away the payments to people who aren't citizens of the country, how are we ever going to roll back any of this stuff? You know, you can't
Well,
even
they-
do it for people who aren't citizens.
They could if they could get the 60 votes,
Yeah,
but they can't get the
could.
60 votes.
Yes, that's the thing. So it's got to be overwhelmingly popular, basically, for them to be able to do that.
Yeah. You have to expect both sides to want to do the right thing,
Yeah,
which is impossible.
yeah, that's going to be tough.
And typically we like when government can't do anything, but when government's able to actually cut back on spending, we want them to be able to do that.
Yeah, just like any, I don't believe that the founders set up a system that would make it impossible to make the government smaller, to take less money from people and to spend less welfare money on other people. They might have set up a system that was supposed to prevent the government from becoming bigger and bigger, more consolidated and tyrannical over time. And I get that, but I do hate it when I see these same rules stop the government from getting less powerful at the same time.
Right.
That couldn't have been the intention. Maybe it was. I don't know. So that's what we got with the BBB right now. We don't know how this is going to change the money, the financial situation. My off the top of my head guess.
Is this going to change so much that they're going to have to send it back to the House?
Well, they have to send it back to the House. Yeah, with any of these changes, they got to send it back. And rest assured that there's another point to make. I saw someone say, well, this is going to get overruled. The Republicans can overrule this if they want to, and they're going to overrule the parliamentarian. And I'm more than willing to be wrong on this, but my guess is no, they're not, because most of the Republicans don't actually want to make potentially unpopular cuts that might affect people in their states. They actually don't care about making the cuts really at all.
They only care about getting elected.
So they brought up, this could have even been planned. Keep that in mind too. They could have known that when they...
No one's happier than Josh Hawley.
I know. He's super pumped about this. They could have known this the whole time, that they put up this bill that had all these cuts for the immigrants and all that stuff, getting Medicaid, and here's how much money we're going to save over time. They might have known the entire time that the parliamentarian was going to take out all this stuff. And they're totally fine with that. They're like, well, we tried. You know, we were going to make cuts, and this darn parliamentarian stopped us. You know, so what are we going to do? You think they're going to decide to make a ton of cuts elsewhere or anything? Probably not. Probably not. That's probably not going to happen.
Think they're going to decide to be like, maybe we don't need that $5 trillion debt limit increase?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Now, there is a provision in the outline that the House had passed, if I remember correctly, that said they had to find X amount of savings. And if they couldn't find that much savings, then they weren't able to make the tax cuts that they were making, that they essentially would have to make up for the lack of savings found. And so this could actually result in getting rid of some of the tax deductions or something like that. Instead of no tax on tips, it could be like a 5% tax on tips or something like that to try and make up for some of this. We'll see. It's going to be a mess. I'll tell you that.
Get your brooms.
Get your brooms. Going to be a mess. Speaking of things that are going to be a mess, my favorite post I saw about Zoran Mamdani was a post on X that said, "How do I short a city?" I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
So this guy, is it Mamdani? Yeah, Mamdani. I think we've talked about him before.
By the way, he's not the mayor yet. He just won
No.
the Democratic primary, which means he'll more than likely be
More than
mayor.
likely. Have you seen the guy that he's going to be running against?
No.
Well, first off, Eric Adams is running as an independent. And then there's
Who's a Republican?
There's a Republican guy. And, oh, God, I don't remember his name. Maybe someone in the group can help me out with this guy's name. The dude is always wearing a beret. He's wearing a beret. He was like one of these civilian neighborhood policemen from back in like the 70s or 80s or something like that. And
Back
from
when
Brooklyn,
New York was great.
yeah, from Brooklyn, can't understand a word he says, you know. And I'm like, really? Is this the guy? And I'm like, so you still got the beret, huh? You're still wearing that? He's wearing a red beret,
Huh.
like all the time. So I'm not sure I can support the guy just based on that freaking fascist beret he's wearing, or the commie beret that he's wearing. But anyhow, Zoran. Let's talk about Zoran real quick. He's a guy with a bunch of ideas. Like this idea here. I'm sure you guys have seen his idea for the publicly ran city-owned grocery stores. I think we did this on Dumb Bleep of the Week. Maybe not. Here's the city-run grocery store video.
Grocery prices are out of control. The cost of eggs and milk has skyrocketed. Some stores are even using dynamic pricing, jacking up the cost over the course of a day depending on what they can get away with. It doesn't need to be this way. I'm Zoran Mamdani, and as mayor, I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores. It's like a public option for produce. We will redirect city funds from corporate supermarkets to city-owned grocery stores, whose mission is lower prices, not price gouging. These stores will operate without a profit motive or having to pay property taxes or rent, and will pass on those savings to you. Grocery prices are out of control.
Yeah, he did hold the mic a little bit close. He's getting a lot of pops, a lot of clips in there. Needs a pop filter on that thing, and maybe back it off just a little bit. That would be, yeah, we've talked about this before, but now, I mean, it's highly likely this guy is. It's highly likely this guy's going to end up being the mayor of New York. There's a lot of people.
I found the Republican nominee.
Okay.
Curtis Sliwa.
Oh, I forgot.
Sliwa?
Yeah, he had a last name.
Sliwa.
Curtis, like C.
Yes. CurtisSliwa.
Sliwa. Let's see here. Oh, he's got that beret on. This is him a long time ago. Yeah, it's him quite a little bit ago. This is the guy. As you can see, he's got a beret. I'm not sure how much the beret is going to play these days. Not really more. Okay, so back to the weird socialist nonsense here. There's a good chance the guy's going to end up being the mayor of New York. And by the way, it's fairly consequential. New York has like a bigger population than Sweden, or like the same population as Sweden. It's got a bigger population than Denmark and Norway.
Several states in the United States.
When it comes to like the Scandinavian socialism thing that people like to talk about, well, this guy's going to be mayor of a city that's got a bigger population than some of those supposedly socialist countries. And so when
New York's not homogenous at all.
No.
It's probably the biggest melting pot we have in the United States.
I went to Norway and I look the same. I'm just saying.
You were in homogeny.
Actually, I was a little dark, honestly, to be there.
You were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
your eyes were slightly too squinted.
my eyes. A little bit too squinted for that one. Man, if no one knows, that's a weird joke, huh? So anyhow, I'm not insanely upset about this like a lot of people are. I mean, I'm upset that so many people give in to this kind of thing, or that they hear someone promise to give them a lot of free things. And I'm going to show you some of the free things before we get out of here. His website's ridiculous. You just promise to give people a lot of free stuff and like get rid of the police and all that. And then they're going to come and vote for you. And so it's frustrating to see that happen for sure. And it's scary to think about it happening on a national level. But on a local level with the city, I mean, we've been talking about New York trying this stuff for a long time. Actually, if you went back through our almost 1,600 episodes that we have, I'm like, hey, let's try it on a super small level. If you want to tell me that Denmark is a great model, well, why don't we just try this in New York with roughly the same population? Let's just do that and see if it works out. Now, they're going to get plenty of excuses for why it doesn't work out, and they're not going to implement the kind of tax structure that those countries have, which is like high taxes on the middle class and the upper class, same tax rate for the middle class and the upper class. But whatever. Charlie, have you been here for the last few minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. Just double checking. Okay.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I had a message that I had to respond to.
Okay. All right. I do wonder about his policy for the supermarkets. Like, it is possible to make a grocery store that will show people lower prices than what they pay at other grocery stores. They're just going to have to subsidize it with your tax money on the back end to show you these lower prices. This is possible. It doesn't mean that they're actually going to get those goods for lower prices. And his argument will be, well, we're not going to be trying to make a profit, so everything's going to be cheaper, you know? I am actually a little bit excited to look at the numbers on this because it's going to be an absolute failure. This is going to be terrible for the city of New York. It's really, really
and
bad.
I just want someone to try it.
I want to see it. I'm actually glad this guy won. I'm sorry.
Actually, it's gonna work for like the first year.
Yeah, something like that.
Say year.
That's a long. I don't think it'll work for
I'm
a year.
being generous.
Maybe a year, because then they're going to have to do another budget after that and try and figure out how the heck they're going to pay for all this stuff. Yeah, I would like to see someone try it.
And I guarantee you're going to see the headlines come out, and it's going to be like, look how wonderful New York City is. Everyone's going to the government-owned grocery stores. There's no profit. See, it does work.
Yeah.
And then it'll all come crashing down, just like the USPS and everything else the government tries to do.
It'll end up not working, but then they're going to give the excuses of like, well, they didn't do all the stuff he wanted to do, or like they only did a little bit, of this plan. That they didn't go full on.
We didn't have enough money.
So that wasn't real democratic socialism, is what they'll end up saying. They went halfway on the whole thing, and they should have gone the entire way. It's kind of funny, like some of the things he's talking about doing as the mayor, he doesn't have the authority to do unless he plans on going in there and being a dictator, authoritarian mayor and taking over the whole city. Like they've got a city council or a city assembly like cities have, and so he can't go in there and just be a dictator and raise taxes on the rich people or anything. The funny part is, I think Eric Adams made this point. The assemblymen have the opportunity to raise taxes on the rich if they want. It's kind of funny. He wants to do this as the mayor, but he's an assemblyman right now, which is actually one of the people who has the authority to do that. So that's a pretty good point by Mayor Eric Adams. He says something in this grocery store thing like they're going to redirect funds. We will redirect city funds from corporate supermarkets to city-owned grocery stores. I don't know if they're going to put like a special tax on these grocery stores to help subsidize the other ones. Thus,
that sounds like competition. Like fair.
Yeah, very, very free and fair. And they'll prove that the free market doesn't work by charging government higher prices to the corporate-owned supermarkets, which will then lead to higher prices for their goods, and they'll use that money to subsidize the prices of the goods at the government-ran grocery store. It all sounds great. He also says the stores will operate without a profit motive or having to pay property taxes or rent.
Which also seems fair.
That's very fair. I got an idea. Why don't you try that with the other grocery stores first? He does that video where he makes the point that if they weren't having to pay for these expensive permits, the street vendors, if they weren't having to pay for these expensive permits, that they would be able to charge 20% less for the food that they're selling people. The government-run grocery store would not have to pay property taxes or rent, and they're going to get subsidized by assuming a tax put on the other grocery stores, and then he's going to say, see, we made cheap food. It's going to be pretty awesome. Let me go through some of his stuff on his website. And I just want to be clear about something else. I can't remember if we mentioned it yet. I see no reason to go down the road of talking about how this is proof that even legal immigration is a problem, or, oh my God, they are going to have a Muslim mayor, and then like, oh, look, we're 24 years after 9/11 and New York has a Muslim mayor, and these people did this to us on 9/11. I'm like, that is not going to, first off, that's not a good strategy at all.
But
that's
I think
gonna
it's
make
just
you
like
look terrible.
that's what gets clicks.
It definitely gets
and so
clicks.
These
it's been everywhere.
These right-wing influencers, like, this is, to me, that's the woke right.
Yeah,
you're talking about something so not relevant to what this guy's actual terrible policies are.
I don't have a problem with him being.
Who cares if he prays 8 times a day on a rug?
I don't care.
In a certain direction.
Like, I have a problem that he espouses an economic ideology that is god awful, has killed like 100 million people.
Maybe he, this is his way of like imploding the city from within.
There you go. Now you made it down the road.
Maybe there are some ties to that, and this is better than any.
This was Bin Laden's plan.
This is better than any bomb.
Oh man, I'm on it now.
Just to introduce socialism.
I'm on that train with you now. This was the terrorist plan all along.
Yeah.
They couldn't take it down by getting rid of the buildings. Here is how they destroy America. Right
from
here.
Within.
From within, by implementing Marxist ideology in our biggest city. Oh, that was fun. Let's
If
do
I-
that. That was fun.
I were a conspiracy
If you were,
theorist.
yeah.
I'm not.
If you were that, yeah.
But if I were, that would be kind of my line
Mm-hmm.
that I would deep dive into.
Yeah.
So
Let me see here. Let me see. What do we got here? What do we got? Let me get down. Freeze the rent. That's going to be really good.
that works.
Because rent control wasn't enough. You know, they got problems with their apartments there in New York. They're crappy, terrible apartments, and they're still expensive. And so they need to freeze rent for people because doing rent control for like 50 years has just not been enough. They got to actually freeze it. They're going to have fast fare free buses paid for by taxpayers. Like, just, it does cost money
No, it's free.
to operate these things, you know?
It's free.
And so it's not exactly free. And also, by the way, like freezing the rent, that actually doesn't mean that the operating cost for that building is not going to continue going up over time. The operating costs will continue to go up, and you're just going to continue using taxpayer money to subsidize that back down at whatever the level is that you decided was correct at that point in time. Department of Community Safety, I don't know, that sounds gay. No cost
Free childcare.
Yeah, free childcare. After rent, the biggest cost for working families is childcare, literally driving them out of the city. New Yorkers with children under 6 are leaving at double the rate of all others. The burden falls heaviest on mothers who are giving up paying jobs to do unpaid childcare. They will implement free childcare for every New Yorker aged 6 weeks to 5 years, ensuring high-quality programming for all families. That sounds dystopian as hell. And he will bring up wages for child. Not only they're going to do free child care, they're also going to make sure that child care workers are getting paid more than what they're getting paid right now. A quarter of whom currently live in poverty. Hey, at least they don't have to pay for child care. To be at parity with public school teachers. It will, they need a child care workers union. I think that's the bigger problem there.
Yeah, you're
I'm
right.
not sure if they have a union for that.
City-owned grocery stores.
Yeah, we got that. We talked about the grocery stores. Housing by and for New York. Basically, they're going to build like hundreds of thousands of new units using taxpayer money. They're going to be 100% affordable for sure. Doesn't matter what it costs for them to build them or how long it takes. They're just going to charge you a price. And then they're also going to charge you a price via taxation at the same time. Okay, none of these things are free. There is an issue, though. You know, I was giving it a look, and it turns out New York, which has a $116 billion budget every year. They're projected to be like $10 billion in the hole, I think, next year, and around the same the year after that. They've been running a little bit of a surplus, I think, the last couple of years because they got some of that COVID stimmy money. You know, a lot of places got a lot of COVID money. One of the issues is New York gets like $30 billion a year from federal and state government payments. A bunch of the state government payments actually come from the federal government too. So some are directly from the federal government, some come from the state. They're just passing through from the federal government. So unfortunately, while it might be fun to make fun of this situation that people have gotten themselves into in New York, some of us are going to have to be paying for that as well because they do get a lot of money from the federal government that we're all going to be paying for. And if you live in the state of New York, but not in New York, you're also going to be paying for it. You know, a little bit of their freebies.
So we all kind of pay for it.
Yeah. Let's see. Cracking down on bad landlords. You see, the problem is bad landlords. It's not that they have rent control that caps how much the rent can go up, like 2.5-3% a year, even though the expenses for the landlord can go up like 10% in a year. They can't raise the rent that much. And so what happens is people decide not to do updates to the buildings. You can't charge more for it if you do any updates or anything like that. There's not a lot of options.
So you'd be losing money.
You're just losing money. And people who invest in these things, they don't have to invest in owning properties in New York. They could just go invest in owning properties in a city that doesn't have rent control. Or they could invest their money in something else. They might get a better return if they just bought some freaking bonds or something like that. You know, they can invest in other things. And it turns out when you limit the amount of money that people can make off of this stuff, then they end up making other investments that they can make more money off of. And then you get the idea that they're just going to take away money from the budget, use that, just straight up build these affordable houses, and they don't have to worry about these stupid landlords. They're going to put taxes on big corporations and the wealthiest New Yorkers. I think this plan might backfire. They're going to plan to bring down the cost of living through the city-owned grocery stores, universal childcare, and other bold proposals. And he knows exactly how to pay for it. Get this, Charlie. They're going to tax the rich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'll stay there.
Zoran's revenue plan will raise the corporate tax rate to match New Jersey's 11.5%, bringing in $5 billion, which is almost half as much as they're already going to be in the hole at the current budget next year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to solve that problem. I was wondering, like, how does it that New Jersey has a higher corporate tax rate? Well, you got to do New Jersey's right there. The parts of New Jersey there just feels like you're still in New York.
Feels like you're still in New York City.
It's New York,
yeah.
Jersey. And they're able to do that because probably the costs on that side of the river are a little bit lower, and people are wanting to get a little bit outside of the city. And so they've been able to raise up that corporate tax rate, charging a little bit more. And it's still worth it for some of those businesses to pay that instead of going and paying a lower corporate tax rate in New York, but then having to pay with all the other expensive things that come with being located in New York at that time. So I don't think it exactly means that you're going to raise it up to 11.5 like New Jersey, and people aren't going to do the math and say, it's the same as New Jersey, but my expenses overall would be less if I were in New Jersey and not in New York. And so I'm just going to go to Jersey instead because it's just there's a train ride right there. We'll just take the train if I need to go into the city, which I don't. Yeah, so they're going to tax the rich. That's good.
Yeah, flat 2% tax on anybody making $1 million or more. By the way, making $1 million in New York is like the equivalent of making about $100,000 here in Tennessee.
That's probably fairly accurate,
It
actually.
is. It is accurate. So
they're going to raise the minimum wage to $30 an hour by 2030. Okay. Now, they've made a bunch of promises on things that they can't do. And also, like, we're going to raise it to 30 by 2030. The city assembly is going to have to vote on that. It's going to take them, 5 years from now for that to happen, or 4 years after he gets into office. He might not even still be there. Who knows? But he's going to make this promise to people, and they're going to come vote for it. He made a bunch of other promises, like the city-owned grocery stores. He can't just do that.
The Fed Haters Club is saying next law in New York City: businesses can't leave or close.
Yeah. I saw someone post
Neither can rich people.
I saw someone post out
Let's build a wall around New York City.
Registered Democrats should not be allowed to leave New York City.
Yeah.
And I think that's good. Like, you voted for this stuff, you wanted this, that's fine. But, we'll take the Republicans or
ride
whoever
it out.
else. You guys, you need to suffer the consequences of your actions right now. And maybe the chickens are about to come home to roost here. He made a bunch of other promises, like they're going to prevent ICE from doing deportation raids in New York. And everyone's cheering. They're super happy about it and everything. And I get that, but they actually can't do that. And we like the idea that the local governments would be strong and be able to resist the federal government. You actually can decide that you're not going to help them. You're not going to cooperate, but you cannot impede them. That's obstruction.
Can't prevent them.
There's a federal law, and that's you actually using your people to obstruct them carrying out the federal law. Now, I have conflicting opinions on this whole thing because I love the idea of we're just going to start our own city with no taxes, no property taxes, not going to be anything like that. It's going to be this totally free market city, and we're also going to be an income sanctuary. That we're not going to allow the federal government to take. We're going to have our own banks, our own closed loop network here. We got the grocery stores, all this stuff. And we're just going to live in this nice little economic freedom zone, and we're going to protect you from the federal government. And that sounds awesome to me. Except for that, the IRS is going to roll their tanks across the border and kill you for not giving them your money. And that's how that would play out. And by the way, that's how Zoran would want that to play out too, because he would hate that idea. Looks
like he's going to be regulating delivery apps and protecting delivery workers. So
protecting delivery workers,
the gig economy,
that's what they've been needing over there was the problem with apps like Uber that's just been their Achilles heel this whole time was a lack of regulation.
That's right.
Real big problem.
Darn delivery workers are not protected.
No,
at all.
Healthcare, they got to help their public health infrastructure. By the way. I saw this Yeah. Critical community hospitals. I'm trying to find where they talk about how underfunded and understaffed and terrible. More, New York's public hospital system serves over 1 million unique patients a year and is the crown jewel of our public health infrastructure, but it faces significant funding gaps, which has led to underinvestment, understaffing, and overburdened caregivers. Their crown jewel sucks, by the way, just so you know. It's a terrible crown jewel. As you can imagine, their public hospitals, as like all of the public hospitals do,
suck,
are terrible.
Yes.
And you wouldn't want to take your dog there to get put down. Okay? It's just not good.
Yeah.
But overall, like, everyone needs, if you're not in New York City, if you are in New York City, I think you should leave if you don't like this. Vote with there's some people saying, why would we leave when we can stay here and fight? I'm like, you should just leave. That's what you should do.
That's how you fight.
That is a vote.
That's a vote with
your dollars
and your feet.
Like, we say that when you do these policies, people will leave. And so if you do these policies and people just stay there for the rest of their lives and take it and keep paying the taxes, well, there's evidence for them that people aren't going to leave. And so I think, first off, it's a good opportunity to show them that people will leave the city. And that is what's going to happen. Like, they're going to have all these free things if they did all this. You'd have all these free things for all the poors, the people who are making under whatever the amount is to be in poverty in New York, probably anyone under 150K to be in poverty in New York, you know. And then they're going to be the really rich people that still stay there because they're so rich. They don't care, and they got their high-rise apartment and all that. It looks cool, and
they're only in New York like a month out of the year.
Yeah, their office and all that, and like they're going to stay and they're going to pay the taxes. But all the people in the middle who don't qualify for all the free stuff, but still have to pay for all the free stuff that people are getting, those are going to be the people that probably leave. And you're going to have some rich, affluent people that decide to leave too. But I see this ending up as a city that is made up of super rich people who didn't care enough to leave, and then like a bunch of poor people who just straight up live off of all of those people's money.
It's like you're getting rid of the middle class. It's like a perfect way to get rid of the middle class.
You're just going to have the extremes on both ends left over in the city if you were to stay with this policy.
In other Democratic Socialist news, we didn't get a chance to get to Bernie Sanders, and we haven't broken down his full I
haven't broken down or listened to it
episode with Joe Rogan yet, but there are some nice clips going around, so maybe for another day because I have some things
because I've actually got some points to make off of what I heard. I think Rogan did a great job, you know, keeping it super civil, but also having great responses with Bernie, more than I expected.
A little more pushback than normal with Bernie.
Definitely more pushback than normal. I just had a couple little.
Do you think Bernie's going to run for president because he's been on Joe Rogan? And
he says in these clips that he's not going to. He's too old.
Yeah, he is too old.
Super old.
Who's running for the Democrat Party in 2028?
AOC.
You think it's AOC?
Bernie Light.
My God. Help us.
AOC, Gavin Newsom, for sure. Gavin Newsom, I don't know.
Oh.
Who knows? Maybe Andrew Cuomo will try and run for that too.
I don't think I've ever prayed more for an asteroid to hit us. If that's
Pistol
the
Pete,
case.
yeah, that's right. He'll run.
All right, well, if y'all enjoyed today's episode, please share the show with a friend, a family member, or foe. Leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Go to godhatesfeds.com or joingml.com. Be part of the Fed Haters Club. Welcome back, Magoo, our dear friend. Happy to have you back. We need some more nuanced discussion in the Fed Haters Club. Everyone's starting to just agree with Nate.
Yeah, I'm sick of people agreeing all the time.
And he needs some pushback. Not just from me.
Friendly pushback.
Yeah. You can call him names. You can do all kinds of stuff in the Fed Haters Club. So
we need it on X too. Like everyone who responds on X all the time just like gobbles up everything that I give them. You know, I need some disagreements on there.
JoinGML.com. Be part of that. Visit the links in the show notes to support the sponsors that support this show. If you do all that, we'll be back again tomorrow. Until then, hope you have a good day and a good morning, Liberty.